It is graduation time. Lots of people are going through that poignant experience of graduation, and right here at our own Episcopal preschool, on Friday morning, we had graduation in the parish hall. Beautiful ceremony, a festive table was set. Plastic champagne glasses for each graduate with sparkling apple juice or sparkling grape juice. Each child received a class ring, a ring pop actually, lollipop for each member of that graduating class and their siblings, of course. It was a really great party. The 20 or so tiny graduates had to go through the traditional ritual of wearing the appropriate graduation apparel. And they wore their mortar boards with great distinction, and the tassel was on the right side until we moved it over to the other side. And they walked into the tune of Pomp and Circumstance. They looked great. We are really blessed to have the Episcopal preschool as a mission of this parish. Now, as the students took their places in front of the audience, I first heard it and then I saw it. Lots of parents and grandparents out there. Misty eyes all over the room. Those tiny bodies skipped and giggled. But that occasion foretold of more serious graduations ahead, of children moving into adulthood. And that sent adult hearts into emotions back and forth in time, touching past and future graduations, departures, milestones, weddings, confirmations, acolyte appreciations, and the like. I began the invocation somewhat curiously, with a profession of unbelief. This is hard to believe, isn't it? I said to those parents and those grandparents. Such experiences lift us outside of the daily kind of humdrum of our lives and take us beyond belief and explanation. And there we were, for just a few minutes Friday morning, lifted from that daily humdrum, moved. This is what the evangelist St. John would call the realm of spirit and truth. Actually, he might say that the kingdom of spirit and truth had moved into us. The gospel lesson from John often challenges our reasonable beliefs as John attempts to drag us out of the spiritual laxity we usually have and into an awareness of the spacious firmament prepared by the hand that is divine. John does this by presenting snippets of Jesus talking with his disciples, seeking to stir up spirit and truth within and among them. The disciples showed themselves time and time again annoyed with this particular practice of Jesus, who insisted in speaking in parables and in paradoxes and in figures of speech and in chiasms. They wanted simple, plain, common sense teaching instead. In chapter 16 of John's Gospel, the disciples finally congratulate Jesus for getting to the point, doing something right. His disciples said, "Yes, now you are speaking plainly, not in any figure of speech. Now we know that you know all things, and do not need to have anyone question you. By this we believe that you came from God." They wanted to believe that Jesus came from God, and they wanted to believe that he knew it all, but he needed to tell them definitely what that meant. They wanted precise, direct answers for anyone who questioned them. They wanted short, sweet, simple, concrete, plain words like, do this, don't do that. And the closest Jesus ever gets to that short, sweet, simple, direct wording is this: you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and your strength. And the second commandment is like unto the first: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. But even here, Jesus gets fuzzy, because what's the word at the center of that simple teaching? Love. Love could mean almost anything, depending on the circumstances. Love is what gets us entangled in stuff, in complications. Love rarely provides any quick, easy recipe for a good life. Jesus is challenging his disciples' beliefs about belief itself. What do you believe about belief? In chapter 16 of John's Gospel, Jesus uses confrontational language. Do you now believe? Really believe? I tell you, the hour is coming, indeed it has come, when you will be scattered. You will leave me all alone. In ancient Greek, there are actually two words for the word that we use for know. We spell it K-N-O-W. One of these words has become the root word for our English word idea. That is, I know something about the creation of the earth. I know something about the creation of the cosmos. There's a second root word of the word know, and this one you have to hear with the K in it. Kano. I can know. And that is used relative to knowing a person, or knowing a thing, or knowing an idea. I know the beauty of the earth, beauty of the stars. The question John is presenting to us is, in what realm does your belief abide? Do you have lots of ideas about God? Or do you know God? Historically, Christians have tended to be preoccupied with the ideas about God, the Trinity, the Incarnation, the virgin birth, the resurrection. We generally call these people Christians, and the world looks at people who are preoccupied with those ideas as Christians. Here's a true story from a news correspondent who stopped at a military checkpoint in the Middle East. The soldier asks him, "Are you a Muslim? Are you a Jew? Are you a Christian?" And he replies, "I'm an atheist." And the soldier says, "Are you a Muslim atheist? Are you a Jewish atheist? Are you a Christian atheist?" For most of the world at large thinks of God as an idea. You can almost hear how the words are related. The word theory and the word theist are quite close together. Any atheist who gets entangled trying to figure out a God that they do not believe in, they're eventually going to get entangled in religion. When Jesus is approaching his final hours on earth, he is well aware that most of his disciples are idea people about God. They are going to turn back when the world questions them. Even as St. Peter is confirming his belief about Jesus being the Messiah, Jesus predicts that Peter will betray him 3 times. Most people tend to look at faith as an ideological creation of the mind, a bunch of ideas about God that you can posit or negate by the brain. But our minds can get it basically wrong, even for the right reasons. Jesus knows this. He knows Peter's belief is too heady, too filled with ideological ideas and opinions and attitudes, too resistant to that beautiful, ungraspable, divine presence that has brought you here this morning. Peter needs some brain belief relief, And ultimately, the risen Lord gives that to him by pressing through with love. Peter, do you love me? Peter, do you love me? Peter, do you love me? And finally, Peter's so frustrated, you know I love you. And Jesus, the risen Lord, has broken through from the top of Peter's head and gotten to the bottom of Peter's heart. And that is where spirit and truth love to dwell. The bottom of your heart. Believe it or not, I have seen this very thing happen right here at the Church of the Holy Spirit in our community. Anytime a couple of people get together and have the idea that they'd like to start a family and have a baby. And when they wake up one night and find this nearby presence dragging them out of bed and pestering them in 100 ways with a different version of, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me, Mommy? Daddy? And these parents find in themselves a love that their brains never knew anything about. Their entire world is being changed by love. And really, all their own minds can do is ponder, what in the world has happened to us? Our Episcopal preschool graduation was mostly fun and play. But as those little souls moved through this small occasion, one could feel the spirit of maturity and education moving through those beautiful children. These graduates are moving into a larger earthly and heavenly unknown. It's awesome. It's exciting. It's frightening. They are becoming what God has made possible. And so are you, becoming what God has made possible. And it is God's love and sentiment that glistens through all those aware that the hand that made us is divine. Amen.